Um, I mean, I love your work, so that's always the first thing. If I can see, I guess you just said in your work that you're inspired by natural phenomena and these ideas, and I can, whenever I look at people's work, I can see that connection. So I think there's a connection there in terms of our aesthetic sensibilities. So there's a good match there. The other thing was that I remember you on the brief. You also said that you wanted me to be me, essentially, which is really important for me. There's been times when I've tried to do scoring work or work for ads and things like that where they've said try and sound like this other person, try and sound like this, or we want it to sound like this, and it's not me. And I really struggle. Some musicians are great at they can like write in the style of this of all these different people and do it really well, but I'm not. I don't have a musical background. I have a scientific background. Music is a sort of intuitive thing for me. It's very like emotive and expressive, and I find I write my best music when I can express myself as honestly as possible. So I'm not very good at not being me. You know, but you guys said do we love what you do what you do, and that was again. So there was I love your work, and then having that sort of freedom to sort of be honest and make my own interpretation. That was what really drew me in. And it was yeah, it was a joy to work with. To be honest, your work on it is amazing. Your project's really strong. So it fit really well. Some of the for example, Penrose Tiling. This project I did with Jessica In, who's a code-based artist. That was from the Yearning for the Infinite project, where I was looking for aesthetics relating to the infinite. And I came across this tiling system, this aperiodic tiling system, which can tile an infinite plane without repeating. So it has this infinitely varied tiling structure. You can't just take a single tile and say, oh, that's the unit, and duplicate that. It's always changing. Um, so that was a very code based. I set this challenge to Jessica In to take the mathematics and build a code based system of growing this tiling system visually, and then I applied a similarly sort of mathematically related approach musically, where I used the prime numbers to make every different sound would have a loop length of a different prime number, so that meant that they had also this aperiodic structure musically, because the primes are the numbers which only can be divided by themselves or one. So when the loop lengths are primes, the loops don't overlap. So you get this sort of syncopation rather than kick snare. The snares every second kick. There's a really defined pattern there. These patterns don't overlap, so you get this aperiodic structure. So that was a way of linking the idea of the visuals to a sort of idea that could be applied structurally in the music. So it was a similarly a computational style approach. So that's what, whereas some of the pieces of music would be much more with traditional filming, where I'm doing scoring more on sort of intuitively and emotively rather than with a sort of rigorous structure. So yeah, there are examples where I've gone one way or the other. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say the title. The title, the sound design was totally inspired by the visual, the story and the. I suppose that the one thing that the contour idea was this idea of this crossing over the boundary, and the contour of the structure of this boundary, and then the visual, starting off this, more black and white, and then suddenly it goes and he sort of crosses the boundary. So that was something that was in the title, which actually did go into the music in terms of having these two sections, essentially this prelude with the mysterious prelude, and then when it opens up and it all becomes this sort of colorful, and these big retro synths come, and yeah, so I structured the music in terms of those two halves, I suppose, which did relate to the title, but predominantly it also related to the visual structure. But predominantly, I was looking at the visuals and seeing what they made me feel, and then trying to communicate that. And then the other thing that I was doing was I did a lot of sound design, a lot of granular synthesis work, and sort of spectral effects work. These are ways of mangling sounds which seem to fit with what was happening on screen. These really abstract, like when he's getting extracted from his own body and these things. I did a lot of sound design work trying to sync the sort of these strange warpings of the human with the strange warpings of the audio. So yeah, I followed. The name did feature, but it was predominantly following the visual cues and the feeling that you guys had created with this, this beautiful visual sequence. I think my favorite bit is at the end when he falls into his own head. Like when he comes down and then, like you go, it's like this, and then it does this big, crazy, and then it all stops at the end. It's like this. I think that's one of my favorite parts. But yeah, it was so much fun, and it was really intense. Actually, it was like it's such an intense video. It really is like. And I was trying to reflect that musically, and I was layering in more and more, and it was like more and more intense and more, but really beautiful as well. It has this, again, it relates to the, this idea of unspoken words. When I'm trying to explain it with words, it's sort of scary, but it's beautiful at the same time. And when you say that with words, it doesn't really make sense. But when you see it, when you hear it, and you see it visually, it's totally coherent. There's these things. Our emotional states can be beautiful and a bit scary at the same time, and that's fine, and it's totally coherent. And overall, that's a positive thing. But when you say the word scary, it sounds like it's a negative thing, but it's not. That's words are such blunt tools. Whereas when you see the art and you feel it, then I can't think of a better word than scary, but it's really the wrong word because it has these. It's not a negative thing. It's a beautiful thing. But it has this. Yeah. Okay, I'm not good with words. I think you just have to listen. Anyone who's trying to see this is the problem with me having this, this album idea and then trying to explain it with words. How I can't explain things with words, so I get into all sorts of tangles. But I think a lot of the time, yeah, with the art and the music and the visuals, it makes sense, and that's what the only way we can fully communicate.